This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Delighted to be joined for the first time, might I add, by Martin Foru. How are you, Martin?
I'm doing very good. Thank you very much. Yeah.
You're very welcome. As I say, it's the first time that we've met. You are an unbeaten super middleweight / light heavyweight prospect, star of the future. So we're going to have a little bit of a chat today and just find out a little bit about your backstory. You have a very interesting backstory, even for a boxer. So let's talk. So tell me a little bit about your backstory, Martin. Where did the journey towards becoming a professional fighter start?
Well, it started when I was about 13 years old. I always liked to fight. I was a very active kid. I have two brothers. We was always fighting. We was always getting ourselves into a bit of trouble. And I wanted to fight. And then my cousin, he bumped into me on the street one day, a bit late at night and everything. He was like, "Oh, what are you doing? Blah, blah. Come with me. We're going to go to the gym." From that day, and never quit the gym. I was always there. It was hard to get fights in the beginning because, as I said, I grew up in the Netherlands. There's not too many boxers, not too many boxing events. So struggle getting into getting fights and stuff. But slowly but surely, I managed to improve and win a couple of things. And yeah, that's where it started.
It's interesting you mentioned that about the Netherlands. The Netherlands not known, as you say, as a massive boxing country, but it does have a combat sports background in some other areas. I mean, kickboxing, I know, is quite a big sport over in the Netherlands. Did you ever try any other combat sports, or was it all about your fists?
I did. When I started, I think the first year, I did 1 hour of boxing, and then after that 1 hour, there was kickboxing. So I did both. And mostly for sparring, I was sparring the kickboxers, but I was doing kickboxing myself as well, but not as I wanted to fight in kickboxing. Yeah. But then I actually quit because I broke my ankle, and not with the kickboxing. I fell with a skateboard actually, and so I broke my ankle. They didn't see it in the hospital, so I was walking around with a broken ankle for over a year, and obviously with a broken ankle and stuff, it gets hard, and yeah. But I managed to box, so. I'm still boxing.
What was it like? I mean, I've spoken to, you mentioned kind of the fact that the Netherlands is not a huge boxing country. Spoken to fighters who are based in, say, Scandinavia and some other parts of Europe where boxing isn't as big, and I've always spoken about their amateur background and how it's more difficult to get fights, and you often don't really know how good you are because of the level of opposition that you're fighting in your homeland. Is that what it was like for you?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit, but to be honest, with me, I wasn't really focused on my boxing ability, more like my ability to win. So whether I could box or fight or whatever I needed to do in the ring, I would make sure that I was going to win. So I wasn't thinking about, that guy's boxing for so long and he's got so much experience and all these things. No, I wasn't thinking about it. I was just thinking about, I want to win. I want to be successful in this boxing game. I want to fight I want to go all the way to the top. From as a little boy, I was 13. I always thought I started a bit late, but yeah, it's still a good age.
Yeah, I think there's different ages for different fighters to start. You see some fighters. I think modern day fighters are starting later and later, and are also finishing later and later. You mentioned being a young fighter or being a young man who's interested in combat sports. Did you have any idols growing up? Were you a big combat sports fan?
Yes, yeah. Well, I was always watching Roy Jones Jr. And Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, and obviously Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. The classic fighters. Yeah, just the greats.
Who did you take the most from? Did you take little bits and pieces for your own fighting style, or are you completely different?
I think I take the heart from all the fighters, but in boxing style, I don't know. I can see something and be like, this he's doing it nicely or whatever. But I got my own fighting style.
So you had 26 amateur fights. Winning
That's right.
a large percentage of them. You're on 22, I believe, out of your 26 amateur fights.
Yes.
When did turning professional, when did a life as a professional fighter that become a realistic proposition? Is it something that you'd always thought of, or was it something that just kind of happened?
I was always thinking about it because as I mentioned, when I first started, I was only 13, but I was boxing with guys because it's not a big sport, boxing. So I was always sparring with the guys older, like 18, 19. Me as a young boy, I was already, smashing them up. And in the first week, 2 weeks of training, so I was like, I really, really want to do this. The Olympic boxing, there's no money, or you get a bit of sponsors, and I'm like, nah, that's not me, and I want to be in the spotlight as well. I love being in the spotlight, putting on a show, perform, and so I always wanted to turn pro. But actually, it became realistic when I, what's it called? I always spend time in the UK because I was living in the Netherlands, but I got a lot of family in the UK, in London, and I inspired a few boys to start boxing out there. And then, every holiday I used to come over, and then he was like, "Oh, come with me to the gym." Then I came to the gym, and there I just, put my story on the table. I was like, "Look, I want to turn pro. I want to be a professional fighter. I want to make money off this." And from there, that's why eventually I turned pro in London with Steve Goodwin. Yeah.
You mentioned kind of going back and forward and having family in London and being initially based in Holland. Obviously, anybody who can kind of listen to your accent knows that there is definitely the English influence on that. You speak very good English. So, what's the main differences between not even necessarily combat sports, but just in general, living in Holland, living in the UK?
I think I don't know. It's so different. The people are different. Everything's different. Yeah, I prefer living in London because there's a lot more opportunities. In the Netherlands, it's nice and calm. It's good to relax and take some time off. But in general, I prefer living in London. Yeah.
Certainly more helpful for somebody who's trying to make a career in combat sports. Obviously, you've got so many more gyms and sparring and things like that. One thing I did want to speak to you about, somebody who I know very well, George Groves, mentioned the fact that you two had sparred together. Now, George is one of the highest profile fighters, certainly of the last 10 years or so over here. What was that like sparring with him?
It was so I sparred him a few times, and in the beginning, I think this is maybe already maybe 3 years ago. I'm not sure, but I think it's quite a while ago. And when I first started sparring him, the first time actually, it was like an eye opener. Like, wow, these guys are really, really tough. They are strong, and so I wanted to go back in there straight away and do more rounds and to really learn to improve and see what it's like to fight world champion level. And so the next time when I came, I was doing a lot better. And then even the time after, I was doing even better than the second time. And so I felt like I was improving. I felt like I was getting used to, the power and everything. So yeah, it was a very, very good experience to me.
How much different is it going in there with somebody like George? Because as I say, I've been privileged to watch George spar, and we know over here about how good he is and how hard he punches. How different was it stepping in the ring with somebody like him at the elite level compared to what you've been used to in the past?
How different? It's very, very different. And I believe also, obviously George Groves is one of them, but stepping in with the girl will be completely different, So styles make a fight, and but it was different in a way that he was so strong and he was so experienced, and he could read what I was doing, and so that's where I learned I need to be unpredictable, I need to be quicker, I need to be stronger. So yeah. I think it's the experience, baby. I don't know.
Maybe I'd say that you could spar with George now, but George is happily retired, and I think he might be a little bit too heavy to spar with you now. You've also followed him over to Wasserman, which is obviously a very very prominent talent agent, a very prominent sports agent who look after a lot of fighters, soccer players, and American
Yeah.
stars. Tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
how that came to pass. How did you get hooked up with Team Was?
Well, a friend of mine, well, George, well, he what's he called? No, I was sparring a friend of his boy, their boys and blah blah blah, and he was training at the gym where I was training, and we were sparring, and then so that's how he knew who I was, and he also saw me fight in York Hall, and that's where I think he joined Wasserman, and then he contacted me because he wanted to show them he could bring good boys on board and everything. So that's when he contacted me, and that's how it came.
What's it been like working with them? It must be nice. 'Cause, I mean, I speak to a lot of fighters who don't necessarily have the profile that you have, which we'll come on to, in a little bit. But being a young fighter or being a relatively inexperienced professional fighter, but having the backing of a Wasserman must be very beneficial at this point in your career.
100%. And in the first two fights of my career, I didn't have it, and I was struggling, not coming from the UK originally, selling tickets and stuff, and just I was trying to find my way, and but right now to know that there are people for my best interest, that really want to push me, that really want to see me become a world champion. Because me personally, I believe I'm going to be a world champion, and it's just good to have the backing. Yeah.
We mentioned the fact that you boxed at York Hall. What was that like? A lot of people, I'm always very curious to see people with the first time they box at York Hall because it's a very unique atmosphere. What was it like for you?
I loved it. Really. I think I knocked my opponent out in the first round, and but I remember just everyone shouting, and because everyone's so close to you, you can hear everyone. And it was nice. I loved it. Even the warming up, the dressing rooms are very small. You're there with like 3-4 other fighters. it's intense. I like it. Yeah.
What's your dream venue? If you could fight anywhere in the world, where would you fight?
Mgm Grand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Madison Square Garden. I don't know. Everywhere. I want to fight everywhere.
Yeah, it's good. It's
go
good.
all around the world, fight anyone, anybody. Yeah.
Well, an attitude like that will serve you well in boxing. Why the MGM Grand? I mean, MGM Grand, obviously, apart from being one of the meccas of boxing, have you ever been there before? Have you been to Vegas?
No, I've never been there. No, but it's just that when I think of a money fight, it's MGM Grand. So I don't know. Yeah, I just want to fight there.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's the main event, though. I want to be the main event.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we tell Duncan and the guys at Wasserman that you don't want any co-main event slots at the MGM Grand.
No, it's all right. That's all right. But it's a dream to be the main event. Yeah. Now, as I mentioned, I'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, any weight. Okay, maybe not heavyweight or fucking lightweight, but yeah, super middle around that. Yeah.
You mentioned that super middle and light heavy. I mean, in this country, over in the UK, super middleweight has arguably been our strongest ever division. It's always kind of churned out. I don't know whether or not it's just kind of your average British guy as a certain weight or a height or whatever, but we've always churned out good super middleweight / light heavyweights. Now is no different. The domestic scene, you've got Umar Sadiq, Zach Chelly. There's plenty of super middleweights knocking about. Have you got your eye on anybody in particular? Obviously, we're kind of at the mercy of coronavirus at the minute, but afterwards, it looks like we're going to be seeing a lot of domestic fights.
Well, any of them, really, any of them. I do not care. I do not give a shit. Really, because I believe I can take on all of them. Even the big boys. which I believe are not so big. You know, you name them, I'll fight them.
Who do you think's currently the number one super middleweight in the UK? The general consensus is it's between Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders.
I don't know. It's different. They're all different. Everyone got their own skill and their own little thing they're good at, but I think it's about combination.
I'll rephrase the question. Which one would you prefer to fight and why?
Who's got the WBC?
At super middleweight, David Benavidez.
Please give me David Benavidez.
I like it. You're setting your sights high. That's good. Always go for the number one. Something that we haven't spoken about, which I'm sure you have spoken a lot about, is you were on the Dutch Love Island.
Yeah, true.
now that's interesting. Most fighters who I come into contact with or I speak to, they have a let's find out how to phrase this without offending too many people. They don't necessarily all have a face for Love Island. Now tell me about how it happened for you and what the experience was like.
Well, the way it happened, it's quite funny because they asked my brother it's the Dutch Love Island, so my brother was living in Amsterdam. He still lived there, but him and a friend of his, they knew a lady from the casting, and they were asking first. She asked them, and then they saw my brother's Instagram, because my brother has a girlfriend. Obviously, you can't go on Love Island if you got a girlfriend. So they saw me on his Instagram, and it was like, oh, whoa, and is that your brother, and blah, blah, blah. And then from there, they asked me, but I was gonna be fighting. So I was like, oh, man, yeah, well, I live in London. I got my life here. So, but then my boxing contract ended with Steve Goodwin, and that's when I thought, wow, fuck it, why not? There's going to be a big gap between now and when I'm going to be fighting. So I was like, I might as well. Ain't got nothing to lose. It's going to be in the Netherlands. Imagine I fuck up, I do something stupid. It's not going to affect me in Britain. So, but at the end of the day, I did very well. You know, I came second and had an amazing time. But yeah, I wanted to go back to boxing as soon as possible.
What's it like? I mean, I'm curious to know what it's like for somebody coming out of something like that. What did it do for your profile? How did your life change going in and doing something like that?
Well, you have to understand that in the Netherlands, it's not so big. It was the pilot. It was the first ever Love Island. Plus, the Dutch people are like, they're very laid back, you know, when it comes to seeing someone from the television. You know, young girls and stuff, they can go crazy. But in general, they're calm. It's not too bad, you know. In the beginning, it was crazy, though. When I went, for example, we go out, when they book you for appearances. Yeah, but if it really changed my life, I don't think so. No. In a way, but not really. Because I was already like doing like a lot of stuff in fashion. Like, I'm a model as well, so I was doing like runway shows, and so I've seen a lot around the world. I've been places, and yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Nothing too crazy.
Women weaken legs, Martin.
Only if you get to business.
Now, where do we stand next? Obviously, you were due to make your return to the ring pre-COVID on the Sauerland show. That unfortunately did not happen. Appreciate that you're in the same position as everybody else at the minute, and we're just kind of waiting. But what was that like for you? I mean, obviously your contract with Steve Goodwin had expired. You must have been looking forward to getting back into the ring, and then this happened.
It was terrible, because I've been looking to fight. Let me think. My last fight was in 2018, and November 2018. So I have not been in the ring for a year and back then a year and 6 months. I think I was gonna fight on the 4th of April, And man, I was looking forward to that fight. You know, training my ass off, obviously, and then then the COVID-19 comes and just messes it all up. But yeah, nothing we can do about it. Still going strong, still training, still feeling good. Still looking forward to the next fight. Yeah.
What have you been doing to keep yourself in shape?
Just jogging, some strength and conditioning, some pad work. Normal things, though. Yeah.
Well,
nothing too crazy. So, yeah.
Well, we look forward to hopefully boxing coming back soon so we can get you back in the ring, whether that's here or somewhere on the continent. We look forward to it. But Martin Foru, this has been very interesting, very nice to get to know you and introduce you to the Boxing Social fan base, Boxing Social followers. Yeah, let's do it again sometime soon. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
Please.
And I'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, cool. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.